What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we have got our first secret rare card to have a little bit of a gander at from Wave 5. We've got a stratagem coming in as well in this video, but the lovely folks over at BWTF.com, Ben's World of Transformers, have gone and shown us it's a card we haven't seen before. It's a secret rare card. The first one that we have seen from Wave 5 so far, it's Windsweeper. Cool. So what can we say about Windsweeper? Well, it is a 10-star character, which is moderately high, but not too bad. We've got a really nice health of 15, an alright or pretty bad defense of 2 or 1, and an alright or pretty good attack of 4 or 5. Stats are fine, stats are not phenomenal. It's a plane, it's range, which we would expect from a plane. Okay, so far we're not terribly impressed that it's a 10-star character, but what can we do with the stats? Well, in bot mode, when one of your other characters attacks, you may move 1 damage counter from it to this. Oh, yeah, that's not bad. Now don't get me wrong, right? We don't want to be piling damage on. But there are a few cards which are actually quite nice for piling damage on. So you attack with other characters, and now for this to work, the other characters have to be damaged. But as long as those characters are damaged, you attack with them, you move damage onto Windsweeper, and then hopefully you don't just leave it there and wait to be KO'd. Hopefully we can do something with it in the future. Well, one thing that we potentially can do here, the alt mode skill. When this attacks, if you had at least 2 planes on your starting team, move 2 damage counters from this to the defender. Otherwise, move 1 damage counter from this to the defender. So you can always move 1 damage counter over, but if you had at least 2 planes on your starting team, you can move 2 damage. Now, 2 important ruling things we can pick up from the wording there. It is on your starting team, not on the board. So if you've got planes but they're in bot mode now, not a problem. If you had planes but they've been KO'd and are now in the KO area, not a problem. It also says at least 2 planes, not at least 2 other planes. So you only need Windsweeper and 1 more in order to be able to move over 2 damage counters rather than 1. Sounds like fun. So in the bot mode, you move damage over to it, which doesn't sound ideal. But then in alt mode, you get to move damage from it to your opponent. So essentially, you want to leave it in bot mode until you're ready to attack. Then you flip to alt mode, which works perfectly because you've got a slightly higher defense in bot mode, where you want to be until you attack. And then you've got a slightly higher attack in alt mode, where you want to be when you are attacking. Now, I mentioned that you're a plane earlier, and there is one other plane, plane card, which is extremely important if you're looking to really make the most of this. It's Bombing Run. Bombing Run says, choose an enemy character, move 1 damage counter from each of your planes to that enemy. And as a side note, it only moves from your planes. If you've got characters that can be planes but are currently in bot mode, it doesn't work. You've got to be all planed up. So here you've got Bombing Run to move damage as well, and you've got your alt mode skill here, and there are a couple of other cards we could look at as well. So for instance, we could talk about Fling. Now, unfortunately, it is a blank card, which is kind of upsetting, but you move 1 damage counter from one of your characters to an enemy. So if you've moved the damage over to here, you can use something like Fling to get it off again. Of course, you could have just used Fling in the first place to get it off your original character, but I suppose the theory here is that you're putting all the damage onto one character in order to protect your other characters. We've also got Special Delivery, which moves 1 damage counter from one of your characters to an enemy and has a black icon. Unless you're desperate for 0 icon cards, Special Delivery probably the better option here. Okay. The problem here is, what you really need to do is pile a bunch of damage on here and then start playing stuff like Bombing Run and using the ult mode skill continually, and I don't know how often that's going to work. In theory, you've got one character with 2 damage on. You then move 1 damage counter over to this character, then you play Bombing Run and take 1 damage off each of your characters, because you can't take 2 off. There we go. But it all strikes me as just a little bit awkward. And don't get me wrong, if you can really build this right and make it work, it sounds good. But you run into the issue here of, if you move too much damage over, you become too vulnerable. But then you've also got to try and get the damage off. And a lot of these cards like Special Delivery you could just be using without Windsweeper. So you really need to use the ult mode skill, but now you're flipping back and forth continually. And I suppose when you put the two halves together, it sounds like a really fun mechanic, but I don't know if I'm buying it. It seems super awkward. It seems like it's not really gonna work all that well. I'd like to be wrong. I really would. But I don't think it's gonna end up working brilliantly. I don't know. I am, shall we say, a little bit skeptical. But the good news is we do have a Stratagem card as well. And like we're tending to do in these videos at the moment, we'll do stratagems with them. Once during your game, when you flip your Windsweeper Air Defense to ult mode, and he has a number of damage counters equal to or greater than the number of enemies on the battlefield, move 1 damage counter from him to each enemy, and then flip this. And when we flip it, basically what that means is that you get the lovely artwork unobstructed by any text, but also the card becomes, well, a lovely piece of artwork sitting on your table. It's not particularly useful, but, you know, it's there. And this, I think, is how we really start to build this up. And it needs to be all of this in one. You really need to make this work, I suppose is fair to say. You've got to be able to get a bunch of damage on you, then take advantage of your ult mode skill, then take advantage of the stratagem, and then, like, imagine this, right? You got 7 damage counters on Windsweeper. Sounds good. Now, bearing in mind, you don't have to have taken them all from your other characters. You may have been attacked and taken damage. Something like Force Field here to essentially guarantee you take 4 damage counters might work because you've then got a more manageable amount of damage counters on there, ready to move to your opponent. And when you flip to ult mode, you go, oh, I've got 7 damage counters, you've got 5 characters, I'll move 1 to each, there's now 2 damage counters left on there. Then when you attack, you move the remaining 2 damage to the defender, and then you've gotten rid of 7 damage, you've healed completely. Now, bearing in mind that we could look at Medic, which doesn't have a battle icon because it's too good, that only heals 2. You're healing 7 while doing 7. Bolt of Lightning is a star card that does 3 damage. And now all of a sudden, this is actually working for you. But this seems like the kind of character where this has got to be the deck. You've actually got to build it to take advantage of this skill. Because I don't think the stats are good enough for a 10 cost without it. I don't think it's good enough unless you are able to get a bunch of damage on, then get a bunch of damage off, and really take advantage of what makes this character special. If you can do that, I like it, but I'll be honest with you, it's not one of the more exciting characters, for me, that we've seen from Wave 5 so far. I suppose one of the ways to explain it would be, it just looks kind of exhausting. It just looks like there's too much going on here, and you've really got to build a deck around it. And maybe somebody will. Maybe we'll get some people who do build decks around this and make really good character decks which are almost impossible to KO, and then the damage all gets moved off. Maybe that will work, and if it does, beautiful. but there's no guarantee that this will work. You have been warned. Shout out once again to the lovely BWTF, Ben's Transformers World, over on the website. In fact, I'll link it in the description, for providing the spoiler. And you know my rule, go check him out, go click the article, go give him some love. It's really important that we give love to people who are pushing this game forward. The more people we help, the more we help ourselves. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to know what you feel about this. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, where we talk Transformers and a whole bunch of other games. And do please make sure you're checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, all kinds of good stuff. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wassy Plays.